Uh, Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for CSAC for allowing me to chair this session. It's my real pleasure. Well, Oleksii, just so you know, we've been quite involved. We just talked, so I'm just going to say it for everybody else. But as you know, there's lots of interest in Ukraine here. We have lots of people who've been studying, thinking, and trying to do certain things to stop the horrific invasion of your country. And so it's fantastic that we have you here. Oleksii, just so everybody knows, has just been to Washington. So he actually knows more about the debates about aid to Ukraine than I do. Not so great of news, but maybe I'll talk about that. But we've known each other for a while. He's, I would say, one of the most important voices in Europe, but in the United States, speaking and talking about your country. And I would have said that before the war, but especially since the war has started. He's a member of the Ukrainian parliament from Odessa in a single mandate district, by the way, part of the Poroshenko faction, but that's a very important distinction if you know Ukrainian politics. He's also a member of the Ukrainian delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, PACE, where earlier this month, he was appointed as the president of PACE's Committee on Migration, Refugees, and Displaced Persons. And you're the first Ukrainian to have that position, right? So congratulations on that. Obviously, a very important issue for Ukraine and Europe. He's a member of the European Solidarity Group and heads the caucuses of 4 Democratic Belarus and 4 Free Caucasus in the Ukrainian parliament. And he's also the founder of Ukraine's largest network of educational cultural centers. Think of them as Confucius Institutes, but for freedom within Ukraine. I shouldn't have said that. That was a bad joke. The Goncharenko centers, which have volunteer hubs all over the country, and maybe you'll say more about that today. I could go on just to say that I'm always inspired by when I get a chance to hear you or talk with you. You have a very provocative title, which I forgot to write down, but you're going to tell us about that, and then we'll just take some questions and open up. So Oleksii, it's really great to have you here at Stanford.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. It's a great honor for me to be with you today, and thank you very much. It's an honor to be in Stanford. It's my first time in Stanford, and thank you very much to Center for International Security and Cooperation. Thanks to Ambassador McFall. Thanks to Professor Sagan for fantastic possibility to be here. I'm very humbled because I see faces of people, the books of whom I read, and I admire you all. And I don't think that I have some wisdom that I can share with you. It's quite opposite, but I have quite unique experience, like millions of Ukrainians have, and that is something which gives me, I think, a possibility to share my thoughts with you about what I see today in the world, about our challenges. And the name of my talk today, this provocative name, like Ambassador McFall said, is who will be with you in trenches near Tehran and Beijing? That's my question to US public. And now we will speak more about this. Maybe it sounds provocative, but already Ambassador told that I represent Ukraine in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, and I'm doing this from 2014. And I should tell you that when in 2014, I was 15, 16, and 17. Maybe those from you who are a little bit following this European politics know that Russia was kicked out from the Parliamentary Assembly. There were sanctions against Russia. Then they fought for quite a long time to come back without sanctions. In 2019, they succeeded to do this. They came back to the assembly, not fulfilling any resolutions, and they sat as a normal country. And for 2.5 years, we were sitting in one assembly, and which was quite hard, I should tell you. Especially with people, Russian delegation heads were Slutsky and Tolstoy. Yes. Again, those somebody can know these names. Very specific people.
I think we know the name Tolstoy, but not that Tolstoy.
Yeah, a little bit.
That guy's not. Yeah, these are very, very.
He called himself.
People, yes.
He called himself grandson of Lev Tolstoy, yes. Which I don't want to believe in. But what I did, I made a special T-shirt for PACE coming that Lev Tolstoy with his wording about the war and addressing to his grandson what he is doing. And yes, but why I'm mentioning this, because when I was speaking in the Parliamentary Assembly at that time, saying that Russia is preparing a full-scale attack on Ukraine, that they will attack, that when you are taking Russia back to this assembly without any fulfilling of them by them, resolutions that you are making, you're just showing weakness. That the only language which Putin understands is the language of force and strength. I was considered a crazy man in the assembly, with those crazy men who is always telling something about some strange things which can never happen, how it could be in 21st century, what trenches near Tehran and Beijing, what tanks near Kiev, what missiles in Lviv and Odessa. It's just impossible. That's what I heard. And when everything, I mean, the full-scale invasion started, I joined territorial defense, and I couldn't come to the session. And in March, Russia was kicked out from the Council of Europe. That's for the moment the only big international organization which kicked out Russia from its members. And Ukrainian delegation, several ladies came. Others were in Ukraine and some were in Kiev. And I joined this online from Kiev, from my, at that time, place of work, which was a checkpoint near Bucha, which is now unfortunately famous. And I was there joining them in camouflage with my Kalashnikov. And then many of them started to send me messages who was crazy and like, we are sorry and all these things. But I asked them one thing. I said, it's not because I'm smarter than you that I saw it and you didn't. It's just because we are unhappy to live near this country and we know them better than you. And the only thing I ask you, please don't forget it in 2-3 years, when you will again think that you understand them better than us, that we understand them better than you, and listen to what we are telling to you and not what you think you know about them because you read Lev Tolstoy. It's something absolutely different, or you watch a Bolshoi Theater ballet. So that is another story. This is another country, and we just need to acknowledge this and to work on this. So, but sorry, it's a maybe long introduction, but now, yeah, I want to speak about what we have in the world today. And I have bad news. I think that Russia now is more dangerous than it was 2 years ago, even more dangerous. Their economy is on war footage. Their army is battle hardened. Yeah, they lost 100, 200,000 people. We don't know exact numbers. And for any other country, that would be a tragedy and catastrophe. For Russia, it is not. It is not. They don't care about people's lives. Yeah, there is a problem that they lost quite a big portion of their paratroopers, which are very well-trained forces. That is a problem for them. But instead of this, and instead of 1,000 tanks, 2,000 tanks and armored vehicles and all this stuff, they received something unique. They receive a battle experience of a full-scale war of 21st century. And the only two armies in the world who know this are Russian and Ukrainian army. Even US Army doesn't know this on such scale. Even United States Army. All others I even cannot count. And they are battle hardened. They are learning quickly. They are producing drones in huge numbers. This is absolutely another war than it was in 20th century. When a $500 Russian FPV drone destroys German Leopard tank, which costs several $million, when Ukrainian Sea drone, which costs $5,000, destroys Russian military ship, which costs $10, $15 million, that is another war. And this war, only 2 countries in the world know. And that is something you should keep in mind. And that is something you should remember. And their army is battle hardened. They learned a lot. They are producing in big numbers drones, other things. They don't care anymore about any international obligations, any. So they are not constrained by anything. They think that they survived sanctions. It's a point for another talk. Ambassador knows a lot about this, about loopholes and so on. But what we have what we have. They survived the sanctions. Geoeconomics of the world has changed. That is something which we need to acknowledge. And all the sanction campaign against Russia showed it. Tell me one reason why Putin will take back Russia to a peaceful rails. Someday, hostilities in Ukraine will finish. How, and we can discuss it later, there are many possibilities, but this will finish. What we can say, Ukraine will be, we don't know what territory will be controlled by Ukraine at the time, hopefully all, but we don't know. Russia, unfortunately, in this imperial phase will be, and Putin will never get back to peaceful life. If he will be emboldened and if he will still control a part of Ukrainian territories, he will attack again. The only question is where. Will it be Kazakhstan with the new, again, instead of Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, Putin-Xi Pact with the division of Kazakhstan? Will it be Georgia, 20% of which is already occupied by Russia, and they can finish it? They, because of Ukrainian resilience and because of my native Odessa, which stands proud and tall, they can't get to Moldova. So Moldova is safe, but Georgia is not. And sooner or later, I'm sure, he will try Article 5 too, especially if here in the United States, there will be more voices saying we should be isolated, we can leave the world stage, and we don't care about NATO obligations. That is something Putin is waiting for. So that is for sure. Well, I'm absolutely sure in what I'm telling you now, they are more dangerous than they were. One more thing. If you will just look at dynamics in the world, just okay, today is February 1st. Let us take February 1st, 2023, 1 year ago exactly. The Middle East was not on fire, and Middle East is on fire. Red Sea is on fire. Just in 1 year. The situation in Ukraine is becoming worse. It's not becoming better during this 1 year. And that is something which we can say. Take one step back again. The 1st of February 2022. No war in Ukraine, no Middle East, no Red Sea. So you see the dynamics. The dynamics is very clear. The world is on fire. And definitely there is these, we will tell a little bit about more history, but the dynamics is bad. Dynamics, the situation in the world is worsening. And there is these axis of chaos. There is a famous word about axis of evil. I will now call them axis of chaos. Russia, Iran, proxies, North Korea, and China standing behind all of them. And they want as much chaos in the world as possible. And they're quite successful. Tell me who benefited from what's going on in Middle East? Israel? Not. Palestinians? Not. Russia? Yes, for 100%. And we can, now I think the next areas which they will try to put on fire will be Balkans, with Kosovo, with North Macedonia, with Montenegro, with Serbia, obviously, Africa, and so on. And we need to be prepared for this. I just want to come on my presentation speaking about a little bit about how everything started for Ukraine. Budapest Memorandum. It's a sad page in our history. And that is something many people here forgot. When I am on the Capitol Hill and when I hear, oh, Ukraine, yes, but you know, we have our own problems, we have our own border, and so on and so on and so on and so on. I think that I just need to remind too many people here. 30 years ago, Ukraine voluntarily gave up the third biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. It was because of the position of the United States of America. United States wanted this from us in order for nuclear non-proliferation and so on and so on. We did it. Tell me, who would ever attack Ukraine if we would have the third biggest nuclear arsenal in the world? I think the answer is clear. And United States gave us guarantees and promises. Yes, it was our fault that they are in very weak way, not ratified. That was a problem of young Ukrainian state and leaders who were at that time. But still, United States gave a promise. If just in 30 years, this promise means nothing, is it really the country the world can rely on? Is it really a partner the world can rely on? This is a very important question. And I think we have the all right to raise it. And if we want to have the world where there is a nuclear non-proliferation policy and it works, the answer is the victory of Ukraine. If we want to have a world in which partners of the United States can rely on the United States, we need for this the victory of Ukraine. It's not just about Ukraine, it's a much bigger picture. We have, like, today the situation completely changed in Ukraine. I know many of you are watching, you know that even 10 years ago in Ukraine, many people thought also that Russia can be a friend, that we don't need to go to NATO and things like this. We today changed our mind completely. Ukrainians want to be part of NATO. Ukrainians want to be member of free world. And it's clear why. Because we realized that only we could be protected by alliance when against us is this tyranny and empire, which is, by the way, the last colonial empire of Europe, Russian Federation, which is about hundreds of nations which are suppressed, oppressed, and used by Russian Federation. And only we have been a part of strong alliance, we can survive. So the question is clear why Ukraine needs NATO. It's clear. But why NATO needs Ukraine? I think we also need to speak about this. I think there was a strategic mistake by the United States of America in 1994 when United States thought, and in general it was for decades, that it's better to deal with predictable Russia than to deal with unpredictable Ukraine. We need to take nuclear weapons from them and give it to Russia. Just imagine now, after 30 years, Russia, which is threatening the world with this nuclear weaponry, part of it they received from the hands of the United States of America, which was given to them because the United States of America wanted to take it from Ukraine. Because it was like some strange country, new, we don't know, let it be in one hands, the mass destruction weaponry, and that was done. And it's not just about nuclear arsenal. Russia took from Ukraine more than 500 missiles, more like dozens of jets, different types. By the way, it's interesting, today these missiles are falling on our heads. That is very symbolic. And under US pressure, we utilized a big portion of our armed forces potential and security potential. This is, for example, photo how the strategic nuclear weaponry shacht, how to say the word in English, shachta, yeah, where mine, but it's like not a mine, yeah, where the missiles are, silos, exactly, silos, were destroyed. And we also, at that time, Ukraine, made a strategic mistake. We believed that the world is a safe place. Nobody would attack us. We have all these values, and the world is a better place to live in, and the progress can be only in one direction, to everything to become better. Unfortunately, it is not. We have these axis of chaos, which I call it today. And that is clear. And these axis of chaos, they are working. Iran with its proxies, attacking already American bases, attacking Israel, attacking in the Red Sea, threatening the world navigation. It's clear. North Korea, which a year ago even was not so aggressive like it is today. North Korea is much more aggressive now, publicly announcing that they want to destroy South Korea and so on. And these, besides all of these countries, is staying China, which like announced itself being reasonable, being rational, but in reality, they see that this axis of chaos is fighting against the West, is weakening the West, and they think this is in their best strategic interest. And that is something we need to remember. One thing is about US support to Ukraine. I don't think that I need to tell this to you, but I still want to say that when we're saying about these billions and billions of dollars and what are big investments to Ukraine, We just need to remember that this is like a tiny portion of US military budget, of US federal spending, hence comparing to US GDP, it's nothing at all. It's nothing at all. So much is at stake. The democracy, the values, the name of the United States, the authority, the tyrannies which are watching what will be the results of Putin. So much is at stake. And still we hear these voices, we're giving to Ukraine too much. Sorry, you are giving to Ukraine too small. You're not giving enough just to give us a possibility to finish the job. That's the situation. And by this, you're protracting the situation, making it more dangerous each day, because Ukrainian people are not Highlanders. We are losing our most important potential, which is man-force. We don't ask for boots on the ground from anybody. We are ready to fight ourselves, but we need this weaponry. But if we will receive and good decisions will be made in years, there will be no one in Ukraine who could use it. It will be just finished. That is something, this is the moment to act. This is the moment to do. That's not the moment to have these endless debates. And that is so frustrating to see. I can tell you as a person who was directly involved in defense of Kiev, then I saw everything by my own eyes. If Ukraine would have in March 2022 HIMARSs, which arrived in 4 months, we would completely destroy Russian forces which were retreating from Kiev. If in summer 2022, we would have Leopards and Bradleys to go after Russians when we had a counteroffensive in Kharkiv, then Kherson, then we would finish it much quicker and already everything would be finished. But we didn't have it. We didn't have it. And in the end, in 2023, we were put in situation, and now we're saying about failed Ukrainian counteroffensive. But many of you know the history of the world and strategy and military history of the world. Tell me one example when a counteroffensive was made exactly where Russians were waiting for us, entrenched, digged in, with minefields, without air superiority. Why we did this? Because the West told to us, you can't use Bradleys, Leopards, missiles and everything else in Russian territory. We should attack Belgorod. And that was not prepared. Just remember, in June, Wagner Group marched from Rostov to Moscow just in 1 day, because it was naked, because all Russian forces were in Ukraine. But we couldn't do this because we are boxing with Russia with one hand tied, because we can't use weaponry where we need to use it. We can't receive what we need to receive. We are all time in some artificial limitation. HIMARSs, yes. Long-range missiles, no. One Patriot, okay. The second Patriot, and all the time like this. And now we're in situation when, in general, this supplemental is just in the air, connected to a border deal, which looks dead. Sorry, that's what I saw on the Capitol Hill, and that is very frustrating and very dangerous, because the time works on Mr. Putin today. You just need to realize this. That's the reality. It doesn't work on us, and it doesn't work on the free world in general. About importance of Ukraine, we can say, I prepared this, that we are the biggest democracy of the post-Soviet space, that we undergoing significant reforms, that there is things that you know about us. But one thing is important: we are a predictable partner. We are, because we don't have any other option. The map says everything about us. Either we will be absorbed by Russian Empire again, and we know how it will finish. It will finish with a genocide again, which Russia did against us hundreds of years ago with Holodomor, which they are doing right now. I have all right to say this. This is genocide, because all 5 criteria of what is genocide, according to United Nations Convention on Prevention of Genocide, are met in Ukraine. We have public announcement from Putin that Ukrainians do not exist. He says Ukrainians do not exist. This is bad Russians, which should be fixed. It's what it is, genocide. Secondly, we have sexual crimes on high scale. Thirdly, we have forceful deportation of people, including children, the first of all children, thousands of them, to make from Ukrainian children Russians. Fourth, it's just when Russia destroys our cultural heritage, and the first thing Russia is doing in all occupied territories is destroying our museums, burning down our books. That's what they're doing. And the fifth, the mass murders, unfortunately. All 5 criteria are met. So this is a clear genocide, and we know what they will do if they will observe us again. So we don't have any other option than to be a part of the free world. That's for us the way to survive. So we are a predictable partner, and you can rely on us, not like Russia. Ukraine today, even today, after 2 years of full-scale war, with the huge losses that we have, but today Ukraine is the second strongest army in the free world after the United States, if not to speak about nuclear component, with the hundreds of thousands of people with battle experience, which are ready to fight. That's very important. We showed to the world, we proved to the world, we're ready to fight. We are ready to fight. I was speaking just last week in Strasbourg with one of European ambassadors to Council of Europe. And she told me, if we would be attacked by Russia, we would surrender. That was told to me by ambassador, not by some politician, former politician, I don't know, expert, by ambassador, acting ambassador. And you know that is true, that some of these countries will surrender. Ukrainians did not, and we will not. And that is something which is important, and don't forget about this. So this is a very strong army. We have the largest ground force on continent, not on continent means Europe. We don't have only battle-hardened army, but also battle-hardened society. You know, that is also important. Society which is prepared for losses, which is a very difficult thing. But we are. That's unfortunately, it happened like this. It's not our choice, but we are already where we are. And by this, we are absolutely invaluable partner. In the situation when UK army is the smallest from the time of Napoleonic Wars, Germany, they said that they have ammunition for 7 days of the fighting on the scale which is happening in Ukraine. I spoke last year with one of prominent German generals and asked them about, there is very good Panzerhaubitze 2000, which were provided by Germany, but we received just 14 of them at that time. And I said, just 14, I mean, like, thank you very much, they are great, but they are 14. We have 1,000 miles front line. And he said to me, I do know how many do we have. He said, we have 60. That's you know, and France, they have less than 90 artillery pieces in one of dimensions of this in caliber. So really, Europe is demilitarized. Europe succeeded to be demilitarized, and Russia is succeeded to be militarized. That is something which will not work, you know, that causes. I said to my colleagues in Parliamentary Assembly, you are preparing for bigger Eurovision, Russia is preparing for bigger war. Sooner or later, that will collapse, and that will have consequences. And in such situations, we have this unique opportunity, and from what I started, that also NATO and the free world and the United States of America need Ukraine. Because we are this power which is ready to fight. We are ready to be a frontline unit of the free world. In reality, we doesn't have any other options. So we just have this. That is our most important resource today. Not Ukrainian soil, not Ukrainian mineral resources, but people who are ready to fight, who know what it is, the big war of 21st century. And if the dynamics will not change, And if the world would be more and more on fire, sooner or later, you will have the question, who will be with you in trenches near Tehran and Beijing? And you know the answer. Thank you very much.